We're going to call this meeting to order. We don't have a pre-meeting today, so we are ready to get started on this August 19th, 2025 meeting of the Town Board of Commissioners. Moving on to moment of silence, you probably noticed that Mayor Clark is not here tonight. She is grieving a death in the family, and so we're going to take this moment of silence here in honor of her and her family. So please join me. Thank you. And if you are able, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and it takes us to announcements. Mr. Smith.
Also wanted to invite everybody out on September 20th as we celebrate with the Historic Landmarks Commission of Mecklenburg County the 100th anniversary of Huntersville Rosenwald School No. 2 and its legacy in our community. It'll have a show and share of school memorabilia, historic bookmarks book club panel discussion, and an unveiling of a historic marker for the school. If you want more details and to register for the event, you can visit hl.mecnc.gov. And that is all I had for you.
Thanks, Ethan. Board, any questions for Ethan? All right, thank you. All right, next up we have public comments, requests, or presentations, and I do have a proclamation to read this evening. This is a proclamation for National Women's Equality Day. Whereas on August 26, 1920, after decades of hard-fought advocacy, women won the right to vote, and our nation moved one step closer to living out our sacred ideal that all people are created equal. On Women's Equality Day, we honor the movement for universal suffrage that led to the 19th Amendment, celebrate the progress of women over the years, and renew our commitment to advancing gender equality and protecting women's rights. And whereas, with the ratification of the 19th Amendment, millions of women across the country were finally able to make their voices heard in our elections. Yet many women of color who helped lead the universal suffrage movement were effectively denied those rights until the Voting Rights Act passed 45 years later. Women are less likely to have time to vote in person, with increased caregiving demands and a disproportionate share of low-wage, inflexible work. The right to vote and to have that vote counted is essential to the future of our democracy. And whereas women and girls have fought for justice and freedom throughout our history, all Americans should have the opportunity to fully participate in society. No one's rights should be denied because of their gender. And whereas on Women's Equality Day, we celebrate the trailblazers who fought to deliver a better future for America's daughters. We recognize the work that remains to ensure that everyone can fully participate and make fundamental choices. We strive to uphold our nation's promise of equality for all people. Now, therefore, I, Jennifer Hunt, Mayor Pro Tem of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim August 26th as Women's Equality Day in Huntersville, North Carolina. All right, next up, I believe we are recognizing some graduates of Huntersville 101. Ethan?
Hello again, everybody. It is truly a pleasure to stand here today and recognize this most recent class of our 101 graduates. This year's program was held in June and July, and it spans 8 weeks, and residents of our town get to sign up and learn about our police department, fire department, planning, engineering, public works, admin, everything that all of our staff do. They take a genuine interest in what we do, and we are certainly very appreciative of it because it is no small time and effort commitment to come out once a week, every week for 2 hours for 2 straight months. So we it is an honor on my part to be able to tell these people everything that our town does. I can say this was one of our biggest classes that I've had since I've been here. We had nearly 20 people sign up. 16 will be graduating tonight. We did it a little bit different this year, where we offered 2 class times on each subject instead of 1, breaking it into 2 seasons. It was one of our more popular ones, and we reimagined it to teach more comprehensive history of the town. We partnered with the Historic Society here to take a tour of our old jail right down the road. We partnered with the county to cover more history. They got to have some pretty in-depth tours of the fire and police departments, and they even got to see me take a bite from a canine. Truly, we had a great time, and it was one of the most engaged groups that I've had, asking a lot of really good questions. And the night class even kept us late a few times because they were just so engaged, and we were happy to be there and show off everything that we do. So without further ado, this is our full list of people who are graduating this year's class. Only a handful could be here tonight. They already gave us 2 months of their time, so we won't fault them for not giving us another 30 minutes. But the ones who are here, I do certainly want to recognize. So when I call your name, if you will come up and get your graduation certificate, and then proceed to the front of the dais and just stand. And once everybody comes up, we'll get a photo with the board behind y'all and everybody in front, and then you'll be free to go. So first up, we have Wyatt Street. And Wayne Stoltenberg. Scott Cornett. Eric Anderson. And Ann Dang.
Thank you, Ethan, and congratulations to all of you. That's a really cool accomplishment. All right, we are moving on to our public comment period. Just a couple of reminders for public comments. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please do not expect us to respond because we cannot. Please make sure that you remain civil and courteous in your language. Let's get started here with Ahmed. Come on up.
Hello, Huntersville. My name is Mead Carbo. I've come to you today as a very concerned citizen to speak about the state of Huntersville zoning. As a graduate of Barnett Elementary, Bradley Middle, and Hopewell High Schools, I've seen this town grow exponentially in the last decade and a half. And as I've lived here, I felt the growing pains of poor urban planning alongside the community and the soul-crushing traffic. The growth feels overwhelming and unsensible, but when you understand our town's car-centric land use, it makes perfect sense. By acreage, Huntersville is the size of Paris, but how are we struggling to fit a measly 70,000 people? My commissioners and county understand the myth of suburbia and the need for government subsidies for it to survive. They understand the dire need of property taxes for our schools, hospitals, roads, and a variety of other services, which suburbia famously is lackluster at generating. But they are scared of the community. To Commissioner Rivers and Qualls, it does not bother to see people get evicted from Pottstown and having to lose your generational wealth because single-family neighborhoods encroach nearby on what was cheap land and raise their property taxes multiple times over, while we give that same single-family neighborhood a tax break. Commissioner Hunt was a teacher at Hopewell High and Lake Norman Charter. How many of those graduates do you know can afford to live in the town they went to high school in? Mayor Clark is also a teacher. Are you comfortable using a system of zoning that robs future resources from them and puts housing ownership and affordability out of reach forever? Is the thought of housing affordability and sustainable development scarier than being voted out? It begs the question of what you're in politics for, if not to improve the living of Huntersville. It makes me question your resolve and character, but it would not surprise me from the Democratic Party. Single-family zoning must die. It was born from discrimination and must be expunged immediately. I'm here because I believe in my town and I want to see it become extraordinary. I want trains and public transit to take us to places like Belmont, Charlotte, Iron Station, Statesville, and Taylorsville at 110 miles an hour, and love for revolutionary mass transit options to solve our traffic problems. But we can never do that if we keep subsidizing suburbia and robbing our children of cheap, well-maintained shelter in the future. My town wants to be stuck as a 1950s, financially insolvent suburban town that relies on local, state, and the federal government to bail it out. We can be much greater than that. To my commissioners and mayor, I implore you to do the right thing and change Huntersville zoning to mixed use by right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comments. Moving on to agenda changes and the agenda. Do I have any changes to the agenda or any questions?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion to remove item 8A from the consent agenda.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Oh, sorry, thank you. He is under TA 2508, so I was going to. Oh, my bad. Thank you. Are you sure? I didn't mean to gloss over you. That was just my mistake. Sorry about that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, so now we're on to consent.
agenda?
Right, okay. Are there any questions or proposed changes to the consent agenda? Okay, can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we don't have any public hearings tonight, so we're moving on to 10A, consider a decision on petition R25-06. Lauren.
Good evening. Lauren Spate for staff. I'd like to enter the staff report into the record. So, rezoning 25-06 is a petition submitted by Robert and Heather Dubuel to rezone the property addressed as 12300 McCord Road from general residential to transitional residential. It is submitted as a general rezoning, so no site plan accompanied that application. We had the planning, it went before the planning board last month, and one of the significant questions that was brought up were the differences between the zoning in GR and what the permitted uses were there, and the permitted uses in the transitional residential zoning district. So the font is a little small, but what it's highlighted there are the different uses that are allowed in TR from GR. One of the items that is not included in this list is farmhouse clusters, which is a smaller type of subdivision that is allowed in the TR zoning district that is not allowed in GR. I did not include the accessory uses because they are the same for both zoning districts. So just wanted to highlight these. And overall, staff do not see the highlighted uses significantly chosen to be developed in the TR zoning district. Obviously, we don't know the future and what someone might choose, but these are not uses that are typically chosen. Overwhelmingly, you have residential development in the TR zoning district. So as mentioned, this item went before the planning board last month, July 22nd, and the planning board recommended approval 7-1. And staff find the proposed petition consistent with the 2040 plan and the rezoning requirements of Article 11. I'm happy to take any questions at this time. The property owners could not be here tonight because of a previous commitment with volunteering, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Staff, do we have any questions? Or sorry, do you have questions for staff? No? Okay. And do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve petition R25-06. The petition is consistent with policies LU 1.1 and LU 2.1 and the character area recommendations of the 2040 Huntersville Community Plan. It is reasonable and in the public's interest to approve the petition because the petition is consistent with the envisioned uses and development patterns set forth in the 2040 Community Plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Moving on to 10B, consider a decision on petition TA 25-01. Lauren again.
So good evening. I'd like to enter the staff report into the record. So just a brief overview of TA 25-01. About half of the changes proposed within this text amendment aim to remove the overlap among the current definitions of the terms multifamily home, apartment, and attached house. Separate of those changes, staff also propose the other revisions listed on the slide here. I'd like to just note again that per North Carolina General Statutes 160D-601D, this application does not propose any downzoning. This petition went before the planning board last month, and the planning board recommended approval unanimously. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
All right, board, any questions for staff? Okay, then can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve petition TA 25-01, a request by the Huntersville Planning Department to amend Articles 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, and 12 of the Huntersville zoning ordinance. The amendment is consistent with policies LU 2, LU 3, LU 5.3, LU 7.1, LU 10.1, and LU 10.3 of the Huntersville 2040 plan. It is reasonable and in the public interest to amend the zoning ordinance because it clarifies the overlap of residential use in structure definitions, provides specific and objective parameters for new building type categories, and encourages an appropriate mixture of housing types.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Moving on to 10C, consider a decision on petition TA 25-06. Lauren, it's your night.
It's been a long past several months. I'd like to enter the staff report into the record for TA 25-06. So just as a summary, TA 25-06 is a text amendment proposed by staff related to establishing buffer planting standards for the 80-foot buffer and to clarify existing buffer requirements. This petition went before the planning board last month. The planning board recommended approval unanimously, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, board, any questions about this one? No? Okay, then do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve petition TA 25-06, a request by the Huntersville Planning Department to amend Articles 3.2.1, 3.2.2, 7.5, and 9.64 of the Huntersville zoning ordinance. It is consistent with policies LU 9.1, LU 11.1, LU 12.3, and EOS 6.1 of the 2040 Community Plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? No. Okay, that carries unanimously. Moving on to 10D, consider a decision for petition TA 25-08. All right, Lauren?
I'd like to enter the staff report into the record for TA 25-08. So TA 25-08 was an amendment that was composed of some related and some unrelated miscellaneous changes to the ordinance. One of the significant changes was with regard to SB 166, which had to do with changing the language for some land development terms. One thing that I did want to mention from our erosion control manager, since the beginning of this text amendment, our inspectors have seen some significant progress with 2 sites that had been outstanding for a significant period of time. So she wanted to make sure that we mentioned that. They've been converting their facilities and submitting documentation that they need to. So very hopeful that if approved this evening, that would continue to help having the local regulation to support the requirement of the conversion of those facilities. This petition went before the planning board last month, and the planning board recommended approval unanimously for this item. Happy to take any questions at this time.
Board, any questions? Okay, and can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve text amendment TA 25-08. Considering the proposed amendment TA 25-08, the town board approves based on consistencies with policies EOS 1.1, EOS 3, EOS 4, and EOS 5 of the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan. It is reasonable and in the public interest to approve the application because it provides consistency with SB 166, reduces scheduling conflicts for the board members to attend community meetings, reduces duplicative berm reviews with quantitative design standards, better aligns the use of urban open space with the intent, distinguishes farmhouse clusters as a unique plan type, allows open space in the home lots in minor subdivision, and supports the protection of sensitive areas by requiring the proposed limits of disturbance to be shown on an existing features plan sheet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. 10E, consider approving Public Transit Authority Memo of Understanding on Creation and Appointments. Emily?
So actually, Anthony is going to be talking about that.
Lauren, your turn again. You're doing such a good job. I was let you keep going. It's quick. So everyone's aware that, hopefully everyone's aware that obviously North Carolina Legislature passed what we call the PAVE Act. And as part of that PAVE Act, you'll see a bunch of whereases on this MOU. What we have before you tonight is MOU that basically sets out the authority to move a MPTA forward, which is the Mecklenburg Public Transportation Authority. There's an MTC, Metropolitan Transit Commission out there. This basically would take that that group, and that group would go away, and a new group would be formed with 27 members. But the MOU before you tonight is just one of those steps as we move forward with Mecklenburg County will put a referendum on the ballot for a sales tax in November, and this is just part of that process as you continue to move that forward. You are not voting on a sales tax tonight. It has nothing to do with that. That's up to the public to make that decision. This is just one of those steps along the way that is part of the PAVE Act that is required to continue to move this forward. And there are a bunch of whereases, and I'm sure you have some questions on it. All of this is online. We have stood up at I'm going to say, educational page online that I would suggest that the public go look at. Other towns have stood up the educational. There may be some slight differences that the various towns have uploaded on their website. So I would say go look at that, learn more about the PAVE Act, learn more about the process, learn more about the sales tax, and you make that decision. But this is only about the MOU.
Board, any questions for Anthony? Yeah, Commissioner Bergsman, go ahead.
Hey there. So I do have a few questions. One, and yeah, you still have it up on the screen, and it's the, is this the top one, two, three? It's the fourth one down. When we're looking at where it says the PAVE Act requires that certain actions be taken by the MPTA by January 1st, do you kind of have like a high-level overview of what that means, like what certain actions that's referring to?
I could read it word for word in the PAVE Act, but I won't do that. I'll save you that. It is up online too, so if you want to get into the weeds of the PAVE Act, it is on our website. But Section 6.2 refers to, as we were talking about CATS that owns all these assets. So to be able to transfer these assets to this new entity, they are required, per the legislation, to actually go in and study and do a report on how would you transfer those assets. If there's bonds out there, how do you deal with that? So that's basically, there are 6 items, and that's basically what it says. The authority shall study and do a report before January 1, 2026. Legal and financial considerations with respect to the transfer or use of assets from the City of Charlotte or the Charlotte Area Transportation CATS to the authority. Legal and financial considerations with respect to outstanding indebtedness issued by the City of Charlotte with respect to CATS. So assets, bonds, debt, as they continue to move this forward, can they be transferred? How are they transferred? What are you dealing with? How do you handle that? That all has to be done per the PAVE Act. I can read you the other 4 or 5, but there are 6 items. The 6th item is any other issues determined to be relevant by the authority. So that's the gist of it. But please read in great detail if you want to get in those weeds.
And then another question, and that's, I believe it's in section 2. I don't know, is it possible to scroll down? Maybe putting on my glasses would help. So I know there's a part in there that trying to have 2 of the appointees be members of the community that rely or use on a frequent basis, our commuters already use public transit. But it seems like there's some waivers in there because they also have to meet demonstrated, like the demonstrated experience. I think there's a section where if effort is made, they can't find anyone, no one applies, then that kind of is eliminated. Do you know, or do we have any information on what efforts will be made to have those 2 appointments filled by folks that are active users of public transit now?
So I'm going to give you a broad answer, but each entity, municipality on here, agency that's involved, that has members. Some have 1, some have 12, some have 6, whatever. Each one of those government bodies will put together an application process. The legislature spells out sort of requirements. Do you have transportation background? You cannot be an elected official, things like that. So there are certain requirements in the legislation that have to be met. There are some wiggle room that if you, as you mentioned, without me reading through the details of, that if you don't meet those requirements, there are some options. I think one of the questions for, let's say, Huntersville was, could we, if we meet the requirements of, could we add on something a little more than what's required for the statutes? That's something Emily and I would have to research. Could we add a little extra, for lack of better terms, that says you need to you can have a background in transportation, but we would prefer you to also ride the bus. I'm being simplistic. That's something we need to research, but they are specific requirements that has to be met per the statutes. And so if we get outside of that, I need to probably do a little more research.
Any other questions? Anthony, I wanted to ask, because in the past, there's been some discussion about, like, with these governing bodies, if we would get fair representation up here in the north. Could you talk about that a little bit?
That's a great question. You probably say, good gracious, 27 members? How did it get to 27? So you have to remember this, all of this came about, you're dealing with all of the city managers sitting in a room. You're dealing with attorneys involved, working with Raleigh legislation, because Raleigh has to, the legislature has to give you the authority in Mecklenburg County to be able to move something forward. You have to get all these different entities, Mecklenburg County, Charlotte, the towns, to sort of agree on the structure. MTC, as you probably already know, is Katz owns all the assets. The way that works and how you structure this at the end of the day, I would say was very complicated. The goal here at the end of the day, when everyone finished up in the room, was to say, how can we make Mecklenburg and Charlotte, because they're the bigger entities, kind of balanced, and then the other towns get a vote, because Charlotte controlled all the assets. They purchased Charlotte. Katz purchased the Red Line. All the Katz employees are Charlotte employees. So we had to come up with some balance. Does Huntersville have obviously the most votes here? Or do we have a huge say-so in this? No, we get to appoint a member, but the ultimate, what this was supposed to do is ultimately have an authority instead of elected officials running the overall regional authority, running the transit system, and not elected officials. The MTC is made of elected officials. Whole goal here to get everybody's buy-in was to not let elected officials run it and put people on here that have training or background on the authority to run it. Is that fair? I guess it depends on who you ask. But there are a lot of gives and take to get to this point. I can promise you nobody sitting in that room won at the end of the day, and there were a whole lot of heated discussions and debates on trying to set this up. I'm surprised we got there, just based on, I don't know how many meetings and how many hours spent on this, but a lot of credit goes to, I will say, in reality, Charlotte and the Mecklenburg County managers had to bend the most, and the other managers, obviously, we all worked on that together with the lobbyists and the legislature. This is the best it's going to get. Long-winded answer, but this was complicated to even get to this point, and obviously this means nothing. If the referendum doesn't pass, this is all moot. So,
All right, thank you, Anthony. Any other questions? All right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the Public Transportation Authority MOU on creation and appointments to the Mecklenburg Public Transportation Authority.
And do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, just kidding. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, you do have discussion? Okay, go ahead.
So I really appreciate the effort to move this memorandum forward. And I know, especially Anthony, you and Emily have spent a lot of work on this. I also understand that many of the restrictions and limitations were set through the PAVE Act and out of, much of our control. Is it better than what currently exists? Probably. But I'm not going to support this tonight. Huntersville is a fast-growing community and the second largest municipality in Mecklenburg County. We're the 16th largest in the state. Yet under this structure, our representation is identical to towns many times smaller, with just one seat on a 27-member board. Additionally, only 2 seats are reserved for active transit riders, the very people the system is meant to serve, and even those can be waived if certain conditions aren't met. The structure still gives disproportionate weight to Charlotte and major business groups while sidelining both our community and the voices of everyday riders.
Any other discussion? Okay. I think I hear maybe some music or something. If you could just turn down the volume on your phones or silence them, that would be super helpful. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, 3 to 1. All right. Moving on here to 10F, consider amending the Town of Huntersville Board of Commissioner Rules of Procedure. Is anyone jumping in here, Anthony, or?
That's right. I guess this is on me and Emily, I guess. on
Okay,
this one.
thanks.
Oh, yes. So what you see before you is ultimately, just like your agenda is laid out now, certain ways on here, there's modifications and that the board is requesting to move some things around, change some wording. There's nothing of any significant, I would say anything that's earth-shattering here, is just basically moving things around. There's also, I think Mayor Pro Tem, I think you brought up that still in this document mentions we're having meetings on Monday, but I wasn't here last night, so I think we need to make that change and make sure that's Tuesday, but that's it. I don't know if we have something we pull up here, but it's literally moving a few things around and changing a few words. Emily, anything to add to that?
No, as Anthony mentioned, it's just to change the order of the agenda format. So nothing substantive, and then we had also discussed, as he mentioned, changing it to update the fact that we do have our meetings on Tuesdays now instead of on Mondays.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, then can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the Town of Huntersville Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedure, Rule 6, and to amend Rule 1A to reflect meetings are held on the first and third Tuesday of the month.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right, moving on to a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-3.18.11 to consider the qualifications, competence, and performance of an employee. Do I have a motion to enter closed session?
I make a motion to move into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, and performance of an employee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, we are now entering into closed session. All right, well, it looks like we're back from closed session. We are on to closing comments. Commissioner Walsh? No, ma'am. Commissioner Dumas? Commissioner Quarles?
Yeah, I want to send my prayers to Mayor Clark and pray that she be strong in the loss of her father. And also, I learned today that former commissioner and Derek Partee rang the bell today for cancer. So I want to, if he's out there watching, I want to say speedy recovery and, pray that you don't have any remissions or, stay in remission with your cancer.
Commissioner Bergsman?
Yeah, I just have one from Visit Lake Norman. A reminder that the 11th Annual Capture Lake Norman Photo Contest continues through the end of August. Tradition invites locals and visitors to showcase the best Lake Norman has to offer. Winners will be featured in the next edition of the official Lake Norman Visitor's Guide. And for full details on how to enter, visit their website, which I think is visitlakenorman.org. And yes, it is.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any discussion? Okay, motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned.